Hello, crafty friends. This is the Papered Chef here. Welcome to part 3 of my Rustic Harvest Workshop series. In this video, we're going to be covering a really fun technique called the Emboss Resist technique. We're going to be using a couple different types of embossing powders for this card. The first one being the clear embossing powder to give us this effect for our card background. And the second being the copper, which is one of our metallic embossing powders to create this card. The Rustic Harvest series is based on this whole suite of products. And this month I didn't offer a kit to give you a chance to be able to, for my crafty friends, to be able to get this entire suite. And you'll then have all the supplies you need, except for we also use the Distressed Gold cardstock a lot and some other coordinating card bases from Stampin' Up. Coordinating meaning the colors of the Rustic Harvest Designer Series paper. This Embossing Editions toolkit is fantastic. I love it. We'll be using all parts of it today. This nice tray. We'll start with the clear embossing powder, then we'll use the copper later. So you always want to start with your lighter color of embossing powder first. Let's see what else I wanted to show you before I thank you for something. Let's, over here, I wanted to show you this. This is a close-up look of the Rustic Harvest, or the Hello Harvest bundle. And I've created a lot of projects to show you that we'll be creating in this series. And at the end of this video, I'm going to share the projects we created in part 1, part 2, and I'll show you some future projects you'll be creating. The Hello Harvest bundle, you save 10% when you purchase the stamp set with the set of dies. I'll open the dies for you in just a bit. If you want to shop for any of these products, please go to my Stampin' Up store and you can add them to your cart and then check out later when you have more time. So I wanted to thank you because my channel, the Papered Chef YouTube channel, has just reached 34,000 subscribers. So I really appreciate you all. So thank you for subscribing to my channel. My channel is all about paper crafting. I focus on Stampin' Up products because I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator. I have workshop series every month, a Brother ScanNCut series, lots of Brother ScanNCut tutorials, and a lot of Paper Pumpkin projects in my Paper Pumpkin series. I also have an Ink It Up series and lots of other ongoing series. Ink It Up series is all about stamping techniques. I offer lots of classes as well online. So thank you all for your support. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take a piece of basic white cardstock, the regular one, not the... We have two different kinds of basic white. We have thick basic white, and then we have regular basic white. I'm just taking the regular basic white, and I'm going to I just cut off a piece of 5 1/4, and you know that's my standard layer size, and I'm going to go 5 1/4 by 4. So for this technique, I want the leaves to kind of appear mostly on the inside of this. I only have a couple hanging off the edges. So, and just because the heat embossing is an area thing, so I don't want to have a giant area to heat emboss. So we're going to do a few leaves. We're going to then heat them up, and then we're going to do a few more. That's why normally when I teach you how to make card backgrounds on my channel, and I'm using something called a baby wipe technique, you would see me do the whole background first and then cut it up into the card bases. But this is going to be a little different because I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm just doing one card base. So that's 4 by 5 1/4. Now we're going to put the little piece of silicone mat down there. Whenever you're stamping, it's good to have a silicone mat. Now we're going to use our Versamark, which is what I call the invisible ink. Versamark is needed for embossing. We're going to get our little embossing buddy. You have an embossing buddy in your Stamping Editions toolkit. You came with an embossing buddy. And it comes in a little bag, so I recommend putting it back in the bag so you don't get powder all over the place. And you can just emboss. So what you're going to do is embossing buddy keeps you just pat off it's like an anti-static, sort of like I want to say like talcum powder or something in there. Right? It's like a little powder. So what it does is if you do it to your surface of whether you're using Designer Series paper or cardstock, and then you stamp onto the areas, and then you use the embossing powder will only go to the place where your Versamark is, and not all these other places which you're trying to get off there with your little pokey tools, toothpicks. So it's just a nice way of keeping the embossing powder in the place it's supposed to be. So the stamp you're going to need is this leaf for the background of the card. We're going to take out the leaf. This is a cling stamp set, very detailed. Place the leaf right side up, or top side up, so right side up, so you can stick it to the stamping block. And then you're going to dip in the Versamark. And I'm just going to use my, just make sure I get a good coverage. Even though it's invisible, you can't see it. I still want good coverage. Okay, we're going to just go ahead and stamp a few leaves onto our paper. We'll just do 3 for now. And make them go different ways. So like upside down, right side up. Okay, and even though I'm using, let's see, even though I'm using the little silicone mat to give it good, even though it's Versamark, I still want to use the silicone mat. So I'm going to take the embossing powder, the clear embossing powder, and because we're going to need a lot of this, I'm just going to use my little spoon and spoon it over. And we'll go ahead and heat up a few so you get the feel for what we're doing. And so if you can't see that, don't worry, because I can't see it either. So if you can't see it, I can't see it either. Take your embossing powder, move it way far away. I'm putting it like 2 feet away. Okay, because we don't want to heat it up and blow it away. I'm even moving that. I'm moving everything. So now what I want you to do is watch this transform. I'm going to turn on, what I'm doing is turning on my heat tool. You can let it heat up if you want. But I just let it heat up as I'm working on my leaves here. I just let it heat up then. So what I'm doing is I'm doing a circular motion, and I'm transforming this. I'm melting the clear embossing powder. Okay, so then you can probably see it as it transforms. It's going to get glossy. Oh, there it goes. I hope you can see that. I can see it. It's transforming. Ooh la la. I love it. Okay, so that's what I want. That's exactly what I want. And you can see how, like, before and after. That one's completely done. I mean, I always just go a little bit more for good measure like that, even if it looks completely done. Okay, now I'm going to move these other ones further away so you don't have to listen to the sound of the heat tool. So this Rustic Harvest Suite comes with the Embossing Editions toolkit, but you would still need a heat tool, which many of you probably already have in your craft room. And if you haven't been using it, you're missing out on this great joy. I think I have more fun making these cards than giving them away. And usually it's the other way around. I have more fun giving away stuff, but in this case, I have more fun making it. Okay, so this is what we have so far. I'm going to bring that up there, and you can see. So that is what's called, this is called embossing. This is, even if we're embossing with clear embossing powder. We haven't done the resist technique yet, but this is the embossing technique. And then later we'll do the resist technique. So now I'm just going to go ahead and do a couple more. Let's get, okay, so we'll just do one, okay, this way. This way. And now I'm kind of hanging off the edge there. I'm just going to go ahead and do the rest right now. I wanted to show you, but I mean, we're going to do the rest because I would normally do a few at a time, but I don't want to have to make you listen to that the whole time. So here's what I've done. I've then covered it up. All right. And you can pour the emboss as long as now this Versamark is wet, right? So you can pour the clear embossing powder on it, and technically then heat it up later. And so as long as this is part, so the Versamark is wet, and as long as this part sticks on there, you can always heat it up later. But we're going to heat it up now. So we're going to take. So for this one, because I have a whole big sheet, my hand might get close. I'm putting this little tweezers on there. These are the tweezers that came with the Embossing Editions toolkit. So you can see the before and after. Putting that way over there, putting this way over there. And we'll just go for it. If you heat your paper too much, it does warp a little. But in this case, you can sort of do that to keep it from warping, kind of. There you go. Oh, that one's fast. That was fast. And you can move your little heat tool around. That one's fast too. And don't worry, I'm not going to save the resist part till later. I'm doing the resist part next. So if you're like, this is like watching paint dry. No, it's better than watching paint dry because paint doesn't become glossy like this when it dries. It's just amazing. Well, I guess it is a kind of paint, so maybe it does. So there you go. So this is almost done. And then for good measure, we just double check them all. The magic happens in the resist part. All right, I'm good. I hope that makes sense. Here's what we have. A bunch of glossy leaves. Let's go ahead and resist now. So resist means that the ink is going to resist these clear glossy leaves, and it's going to attach to the other part of the paper. But you know what? I should technically pour this embossing powder back into the, because we need this tray again. So what I'm going to do is put the embossing powder back inside. So if you're going to work with, say, clear and then copper, in our case, copper. So what I like to do is I like to tap the tray like that to get it to start rolling. Then I use my little brush. So if I'm going to use clear and then copper, I'm always going to start with the clear because I don't care that the clear mixes with the copper. I'm probably going to get myself another one of these kits so that way I can work with a couple colors of powder and kind of leave them out. But if you're going to take your tray and then put another color on top of it, it's okay to put clear first and then copper. But you don't want to do copper first because then when you clean it and then clear, because then it would end up with copper inside this bottle. And when I'm all done, I always wash the whole tray to keep the powders from mixing. So that's just a little bit of clear on there. It's okay to have that. Now put your cap back on. You can put your clear embossing powder away. And I'm going to take out the copper. That's the copper embossing powder. We'll get that ready for our next part. So let's do the resist technique. So we're going to grab our ink. And what we want is coordinating colors. So we'll do our pumpkin pie, Cajun craze, and crushed curry. Then we'll take our blending brushes. This will be the Cajun craze blending brush. Mossy Meadow, I've been doing some blending with as we did on the last video. So if you missed that, we did some blending with the card backgrounds. Okay, another couple blending brushes. So now you're going to get I'm just grabbing a stamping block. Okay, I can move this away and put this right there. So I'm going to blend the pumpkin pie up at the top. Right, this part. And then I'll blend some Cajun craze. So I'm just putting my inks right there. And then we're going to get the stamping block to put the ink on. Okay, so what I like to do is put the ink on the stamping block. So we're going to use, I would probably start with the darker one. So let's go ahead with the Cajun craze. And I would put the ink on the stamping block like so. Dip into it with my blending brush, right? Tap onto the mat a little bit to get off that blob. And then start circling in like this. Circling into the paper. And now you can watch the magic happen. Look at that. You can watch the leaves come alive. So tap, tap, tap onto there. Actually, when you get ink on the corner, just go with it and just start. We can always cover it up later, but when you get ink on the corner, just cover it up. That's how you can fix any mistakes, right? I'm probably getting it all over my hands. So use any colors you want for this. You could do this. This really works really fun, like really well with snowflakes. So I'll probably do something with the Snowman Magic bundle that I did for Christmas in July. There was a Snowman Magic bundle. Okay, so tell me that's not cool. Anybody who says that is not a real paper crafter. That is cool, a cool effect. All right, so there you go. So anyway, we could do this with snowflakes. It would look really cool in the background for your winter scenes, or those little trees. Anything you want to stand out. Okay, so good. Now we have that. Now let's blend in some. We'll do some crushed curry and some pumpkin pie on the other sides of the Cajun craze. So we're done with those colors. Let's not mix them up. Get a baby wipe here. Okay, and we're going to do the pumpkin pie. Dip the stamping block in there. Okay, let's see which one of these was my pumpkin pie one. That was my crushed curry one. Nope, that's the crushed curry. All right, that's the crushed curry. This is the pumpkin pie. Okay, we'll just do it this side here. We'll just roll it in, roll it in. You're just tapping the mat so you get those blobs off of your brush, because if not, you get this big blob right on your paper. Now you can see in the intersection between the Cajun craze and the pumpkin pie, it's blending together nicely, the two colors. So that's a nice little intersection. Okay, here we have this part, and now we're going to flip it over because I'm right-handed, and we will do our crushed curry. I don't need to clean the block this time because I'm just going to use the other side of the block. I'm just going to dip it in. I'll put that one away over there so I don't mix them up. And now we have the crushed curry. Okay, let's see, circle motion. And then you just keep layering it on. So if you want to do a whole big piece of paper at once, then you can cut it later for your different projects, which will be nice too. So you're different. You can make box tops. We're using it as a card background. Ooh la la. All right, I need to definitely see the comments this time because I know some of you might not be familiar with this technique. And if you are, if you've tried it before, let me know the kind of thing you tried it with, like snowflakes or what else, to give us ideas of what this would look cool for. So hello, Janet. Nice chatting with you again. I know you're always there waiting for me. See, I have to get my scene all set up, and you're already here waiting when you see the announcement in my Facebook groups. Hello, Kathy P. and Kathy S. Marilyn B. from Pennsylvania. And Yvonne. Yvonne is very excited about the suite. You're here for all these videos. Thank you for coming to all the other parts. Hello, Kelly S. Thank you, Janet, for your congratulations. I'm just going to move all this ink away. We don't need it for now. Okay, we're going to just work with the next part of this technique, which is this. As I'm just gathering things as I say hello, I'm gathering the embossing powder for the copper part. So we're going to make a pumpkin pie. You need your pumpkin pie cardstock, by the way. So that's what we need less. So hello, Lizzie or Lisa. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that. Lise from Ontario, Canada. And thank you, Kathy. And thank you, Linda. And B Pre from Georgia. Okay, Marilyn saying she needs to do this technique more. Hilda, thank you, Hilda, for coming. And Sue from Minnesota. Melissa from Texas. Sharon from Indiana. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, Linda. Melissa. Okay, so it is pronounced Lisa. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. What I'm doing now is I'm taking a piece of paper, pumpkin pie cardstock, and we're going to use pumpkin pie cardstock from my little container here. I keep everything together, right? Like I keep all my scraps, the scraps that match the Rustic Harvest paper, and then I've been using this a lot for my die cutting, so I keep all this stuff in the same pouch. You get these from Hobby Lobby. These are really cool. They're made by Paper Studio or the Hobby Lobby brand, and they're just like awesome to hold your designer series paper and all your extra scraps for each project. So I do it for like each suite I'm working on. So what you want to do is you want to take your Versamark ink again and your little mat, and we're going to make a pumpkin. So we're going to just take your Versamark ink, mount the pumpkin from the stamp set, Hello Harvest, onto the stamping block, flat side up, put it on there. Because the Versamark ink pad is bigger than the pumpkin, you have to ink it upside down. Never use your first time. You always have to like go on the mat first to make sure you have good coverage. So always stamp onto your mat first. I'm so used to saying mat because of ScanNCut, but it's like your grid paper. Stamp on your grid paper first, and then stamp onto your cardstock. And then you should have good coverage of your Versamark ink. So while it's wet, can you see that? It's really cool as it is. I mean, I love that. But let's go ahead and pour the copper embossing powder on it. And it'll even be better. Okay, let's do that. So you have the copper embossing powder. I should have used the embossing buddy. Now you get to see what happens when you don't use the embossing buddy. You have embossing powder in all the wrong places. See, it's like right there. So it's no problem. But this wouldn't have happened if I had used the embossing buddy. So now I have to brush off all these extra little pieces of powder, which is fine. And you can always try to get them off by doing that. But mostly the powder sticks to just where you put the Versamark. Oops, I just dumped too much off of there. If you wipe too much powder off with your brush, just go ahead and put some back on. All right, I think that's good. Now, if you also can use your tweezers, not just to hold this while you're heat embossing, but sometimes use your tweezers to get the extra embossing powder off from the wrong places. I'm putting that way over there, covering this up. So move your embossing powder out of the way. There's one. That's in the wrong spot. Now, if you don't get those extra embossing pieces off the wrong spot, they're going to go ahead and, when you melt this, it sticks to the paper, so you're going to have like little extra black spots all over. But in this case, it's a textured pumpkin, so nobody will know any better because it'll look like it's supposed to be part of the stamp set. And you're already going to wow everybody with all your embossing techniques that you do for your cards this fall. So you don't have to worry about getting embossing powder in the wrong places. I'm tilting this. Tilting it, and you can see it's melting. And once it melts, it sticks. Okay, I just want to go over the whole thing just one more time while I grab my little bucket of crafty goodness and see what's in there. Okay, so we have... Okay, it's really good. It's really good, so it's good. So now we have something we can die cut. Now, what I would do next is something we did in part one, is I would use copper embossing powder for the leaf, right? And we can melt that, but we already have one there. And we could, let's see if we have this one. We could do one of these. Oh, look, I already had a pumpkin after. Well, you know what? Since I already have a pumpkin, I'll go ahead and make an extra leaf, and then we'll just have these little pieces done. I mean, not an extra one of those, probably. I mean, maybe not right now. I don't want to have you wait because you're gonna see what I do with this, and we still might need to die cut some swirlies, so we'll leave that out. So you're gonna take one of your leaves from this Came in the Suite Leaf and Label Amber Gem Combo Pack. Leaf and Label Amber Gem Combo. That's a mouthful. So you want to take out one of these, and you want to use the embossing buddy. That's what it's for. So you're going to take your embossing buddy, and you're going to go and get some powder on there to keep the embossing powder in the right spot. Now we're going to take out our Hello stamp. Hello fits perfectly on these leaves. That's why we use it all the time, just because it fits so perfectly. I'm going to go ahead and remove this stamp because I'm not going to do this right now, the other leaf, because we have one for the card. I'm going to put the Hello onto the stamping block and use the Versamark ink. Tap onto the mat. And then you have to do it at sort of an angle like this. And now you're going to take your tweezers and put your tweezers on there because it's a small thing. So we want to go like that. Bring the embossing powder back. Pour the embossing powder over the top and flick it off, and then use your little brush to brush off any extras. See how much, see how it's stuck to where it's supposed to? Because we used the embossing buddy. Now Stampin' Up! Had stopped that product for a while because I guess they figured a lot of us had it. But then everybody asked in this, what's called a sandbox. It's like a suggestion box. They're like, please bring the embossing buddy back. And they did, and I'm glad they did. This Embossing Editions toolkit's fantastic. I'm really glad they brought it back. The whole toolkit is really fun and so much easier to get the powder back in the... Okay, watch that transform. So easy to get the powder back inside using a tray like that. So I'm just showing you that part, and you can see the H-E-L-L-O. All right, it's good. It's safe. Safe meaning it's done. Now we're going to take our little twine. And what I've been doing lately is adding a little bit of Mossy Meadow to my twine. It kind of was fun when I did that too. So the Mossy Meadow is something I got on clearance. This ribbon. Or I don't know, it's not really ribbon, it's braided trim. So what I've been doing is I should grab my paper snips, or let me use I'll use a different pair of scissors. So I just took a little piece. I've been tying these up in there. See, so we're making this card, but this time I'm going to add this little piece. So go ahead and put the linen thread in there, and then put a little tiny piece of this little braided linen trim. It's called Mossy Meadow braided linen trim that I got on clearance. So I just tied a little piece of it on my projects. You're going to see how I did this earlier. I mean later. Earlier. Earlier has already gone. Later in this video. So what I did is I put a little piece under there, tied it on there, double knot. And I've been adding these extra little pieces of Mossy Meadow to my projects, and it's been really fun to just sort of fray the trim out. All right, so you see that stuck in there, right? It's stuck in there. And then you go like this. You take this little Mossy Meadow braided linen trim and you just sort of fray it out. So it just goes with the whole Rustic Harvest theme, right? Of all this little layers and textures and leaves, fall. So that's kind of fun. And then you can tie your little bow. So you'll see how I did this on some of my other cards. I didn't really discover this till later, this idea. So that's why our sample doesn't have it. But we can make things better than our samples during the video because we have time to improve upon our samples, and no two cards are ever alike. So that's what that looks like. We're putting that on our card. Then we have our nice leaf, and then we need some little swirls, and we need to cut out our pumpkin. So we're all about techniques here. What I need to do is put the lid on this and move it like far, far away. I'm not going to put the powder back in the container because you know how from earlier in the video. But I'm going to go ahead and move this very far away from me right now. So when I use the die cutting machine, I don't knock this onto the floor, which I've done many times. So now I'm going to take out the Stamp, Cut, and Emboss. And I have it, let's see, I have the Simply Scored out, but let me see if I need the Simply Scored. I don't think I need the Simply Scored because I think I already have all the card bases already cut. So if I didn't have the card bases, I would use this tool with you, but I think I already have all my card bases made. I'm taking out the Stamp, Cut, and Emboss machine. Go ahead and raise this up. I'm going to open up the Stamp, Cut, and Emboss machine, and we're going to use platform number 1, right? That's the base plate. Platform 2, which is the thin die adapter. Number 3. Here's number 3. That's your cutting plate. and then an extra number 3 on top. Or if it, in this case, it doesn't have a number, but it is a number 3. It's just an old one I have. All right, we're gonna put our pumpkin there, and we're gonna take our harvest dies, and we're gonna cut out the pumpkin. Okay, they're not called harvest dies. They're called rustic pumpkin dies. Okay, either way, they're the part of the harvest suite. So this is the dies, or these are the dies. We're going to lay the metal die right there. Remember, I'm doing this after I heat emboss. You have to heat emboss first or powder will get all over your machine. I'm using a little bit of this Post-it tape that I bought at Hobby Lobby. And you're going to just kind of put it right there. It'll hold your die in place but not rip your paper. I mean, for good measure, since we don't want to do this twice, we're going to put one up there. It should be centered enough. I don't really have a good angle. Now, while I'm here, I have this little piece of sticker paper. Now, in this series, I taught you already how to make stickers. There's sticker paper back here. Double-sided sticker paper. See that? It's like I mounted it onto the back of the paper already. So to make some stickers, you're going to put your dies right on there. This is called Distressed Gold Cardstock, or Distressed Gold Specialty Paper. So that's what this paper is. It's in the Texture Chic Suite. That was our last workshop series, which we finished during the month of September, but it was the August workshop series. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a few little swirls for you to put on our card. It's good finishing touches for our card. Now let's crank this through. Usually my top plate is not so scratched, but in this case, it's scratched. There was a phone call in the middle of my series. Mike, can you call Candace Schwabach? Schwabach? Yeah. It's because she's calling. Just tell her I'm doing a YouTube video. Okay. Hi, Candace, if you're out there. Okay. Anyway, we all have mutual friends. I asked my husband to call her back. All right, let's see. Here we go. Where were we? We're right here. And can somebody give me a shout out and tell me if you could still hear me? Okay, like Barbara, you're the last one to make a comment, so I hope you can still hear me. If you're still there. Sometimes when I get a phone call, it doesn't, the whole thing cuts off. My whole YouTube live. All right, so I'm taking the pumpkin out of the die, and then we might need something from our bucket of crafty goodness here. Let's see if we need anything else. You just put all these little things in your bucket. Well, actually, we'll use this one. Then what I do is to get these out, you sort of go like that, or just, sometimes you can tap them like that, or sometimes I use my take your pick tool. I just like to poke them out. So that's this is how you poke it out. It's like this, right here. Whoops. Okay, you can see that. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. And one more. So these are like, they're great for like putting on your pumpkin itself, like the little tendrils of your pumpkin. But I think they're just great for embellishing cards as well. If I have to do any more, I'll do it out of the camera view because I think I might need some Mossy Meadow ones. But let's not make our viewers anxious. I'm going to put my dies back for now. And as long as I don't lose these. See, I'm putting them back in there. And I really need a magnetic sheet. I do have a magnetic bowl. All right, so now let's go ahead and dolly up the card. We need to put some bling on it. We need to do some things. So I have some card bases already cut out. And we're just going to take them out and see what happens and see what we can use. So see what I have here. Okay, this is, I keep extra layers of the ones. Now, in case you're wondering, again, that was 4 by, I'm just going to use my Mossy Meadow. So if you're wondering from earlier, it was 5 1/4 by 4. So if you're wondering what we did, that was the measurement by 4 inch. Was the measurement for the piece that we did the heat resist. I mean, or the emboss resist. Good. Thank you, Susan, for telling me that, because sometimes I just talk to myself and I don't know if anyone can hear me. All right. So then we're going to take a piece. I want one of these that open. Okay. I don't want one that opens like this for this kind of card, right? This is a vertical open. That would be good for this piece here, right? That would be good for this. But I want one that's going to open, yeah, like this way. Okay. Now, we know Mossy Meadow would work because we have this little piece. Look, we have this. So Mossy Meadow is going to work. Because we have that piece of Mossy Meadow there, and we can put a couple tendrils, see what I mean by tendrils, with Mossy Meadow, and it would work, right? But if you have no Mossy Meadow, because like we didn't use Mossy Meadow here, this cardstock would not work because we'd have nothing to draw that color in. So I'm going to say this is okay to use the Mossy Meadow right now. It would, of course, be okay to use another one like the one I made earlier, but you already can see that one. There's the one I made earlier. It's from Cajun Craze. So that would work, right? And let's see, would Mary Merlot work? Okay, yeah, Mary would work, but it's not the same color as the Cajun Craze. So I'm going to vote for using, this one here, the Mossy Meadow. So now we're going to turn it over, and we're just going to, use my adhesive here, my seal or snail, whatever one I happen to have here. Let's see what we have. Okay, I have Fast Fuse. Okay, let's see. Oh, this Fast Fuse is empty. Some of you have been around for a while are going to be like, you know what Fast Fuse is. Fast Fuse was our old adhesive. It's long gone now. It's because I ran out of the Seal Plus, so it's long gone. And so, okay, here we go. Now, I see which way I'll put this. So the pumpkin is going to be down. It's either going to be down on the right or down on the left. It doesn't really matter, like maybe down on the left. But if I put it down on the right, it would be with the pumpkin pie. So I want the contrast. So I might flip this whole paper around. I might put the pumpkin. Let's see. If I flip it around. Yeah, something like this. I'm going to flip it around like this and put the pumpkin down on the right side. Like the other card. I like the way the other card was. I like the sentiment being first. That's just me. Right? So I'm going to go with the pumpkin down here. And I don't want it over the top of the pumpkin pie, right? Because I want it to contrast. So that's why I'm putting it down here. Then I want the hello to be up here, like that. And I think I might put this leaf up here. No, like that. Only to cover up that spot. Or I might be able to use one of my little swirlies to cover up. I think I might do that. Yeah, I think I'll do that. I'm going to use a little swirly up there to help cover up my little blob of ink. That's what swirlies are for. Okay, perfect. Now I'm not covering up that. So I do like this leaf being like there, like that, because that's kind of fun. I do like that little effect. So that's your layout. And then you got your swirlies to do your extra little, bling it up with. So let's move this down. You can kind of see how I decorate this. And then we can get some dimensionals and things. All right, so we have some dimensionals, and we're just going to pop up your pumpkin, pop up your different, pop up your leaf. You don't have to, but I am because I'm kind of running low on Fast Fuse. So I'm going to pop this up. Now, normally I would just probably lay it straight down. Ooh la la. Like it, like it, like it. And put a couple behind you here. It depends on, if you're mailing it in your same country, you can add a little bit of dimension. It's okay, but don't add too many layers of. Oh, this is so fun. Let's make sure there's enough room for this leaf. So it doesn't hang off the edge of the card. It can hang off onto the Mossy Meadow part, but you need to move the hello in far enough where this leaf sort of doesn't hang off the card like that, because then you can't get it in the envelope. This I'm going to put flat straight on there, so that way I don't have an extra layer of dimension. Like that. Okay, so that's good. Right, so far so good. This is popped up, that's popped up. This is not popped up, this leaf, because if I do too many layers of the dimensionals, then it would be hard. Then they start saying, you need 20 extra cents or to mail stuff, and then it starts adding up. But I can get away with one set of dimensionals without paying the extra 20 cents. So we're going to add some bling. Okay, we did two. I'm going to do a tendril here. And then we'll do a tendril in Mossy Meadow. Put one of these here, like that. And I already, let me see if one of these, I think I made this into stickers already. It's good to make it's good to make stickers out of your adhesive sheets. Which, if I didn't do a kit this time, but I did tell you this supply list, and adhesive sheets are awesome, and you might have it left over for one of my other kits. Let's see. How do I want this little swirly to go on there? Something like that. Kind of swirl it up there. Ooh la la. So that is, oops. So much for making a sticker. Just knocked it off. Okay, I'm going to push that down to get it to, so rub your stickers on there so they don't come off. And look at all that texture, and you have all these colors. So you have colors of you have your crushed curry, Cajun craze, and pumpkin pie. Then you have your pumpkin pie cardstock tying in with that color. Then you have your crushed curry tying in with that color. Your mossy meadow and mossy meadow trim tying in with this color back here. And your Cajun craze ties in with the copper. So you can see how that fall color palette kind of comes through over in different times. So that's how it's done. See what your comments are, and then I'm going to show you some projects. Yeah, thank you for Melissa for reporting spam, and Lynn. I know, I'm glad you all reported. Look at you guys all working together. So let's see. What is that? Oh, this is some weird spam, but at least we're not getting links to those very strange websites anymore. I don't even know what that is. Chicken something. Okay, well, I can't even see your comments because this person has flooded my feed. But when I tried to do only my viewers can comment, I couldn't find that setting. So I'm still working on it. I mean, only my subscribers can comment. That's what some of the YouTubers do. They say only subscribers can comment and not others. But then the problem is I tried to do that and I couldn't get it to do it. So yeah, so a magnetic plate. You're asking about the magnetic plate. Yeah, we don't sell the magnetic plate anymore because it's discontinued. So I guess there was some problems with it. It came apart. So we stick by our products, and we stopped selling the magnetic plate. So I see you guys asking about it. So, but if you have one from before and yours didn't fall apart, hey, good on you. Keep on using it. But this is the plates we sell, plus one other plate. We have a set of number 3s. We have 2. We have this one, and then we have the one for 3D embossing folders. That's what we have for our plates. All right, let me show you all the other projects, past, future, that we'll be creating here, so you can see what we're going to get to know what to look forward to in this series. I have a pile. All right, those of you who took my fall projects course with the ScanNCut, you know that we created these using our machine, these little treats, and I added the loveliest day to it. So this is a fun project. And that if you want to know how to make these from scratch, if you have 2-inch tag topper punches, you can make them manually. But I made these using the machine in Canvas Workspace because I wanted them to be wider. They hold a lot more treats. So that's an idea of what you can make with your ScanNCut. All right, so now let's go to this pile of stuff here. Pile of crafty goodness. Show you what we've been up to in this series. We always go all out, right? So by the end of the series, you're going to have probably a good 10 projects to work with for the Rustic Harvest. You will definitely get your money's worth from this suite, that's for sure. All right, so in part 1, we talked about heat embossing. We did an introduction to heat embossing. We talked about the techniques. We used copper embossing powder. I showed you how to use the tray and how to use the brush and the embossing buddy. And we also did some blending with the Designer Series paper, Rustic Harvest. And as a result, we did these 2 cards using this distressed gold card stock or distressed gold specialty paper from the Texture Chic suite. We made some little swirls. We put some linen trim behind these. We used the leaf amber and label, well, leaf label, whatever this one's called. Leaf label and amber gem combo pack. Boy, that's a tongue twister. We used that for these little gems. And in my opinion, they should have given us more gems in proportion to the 50 leaves they gave us. They gave us so many leaves, which are awesome, but not as many gems. But still, we used up all our gems. They definitely get the gems, and they're pretty cool to put on your cards. So that's what we did in part 1. And then at the end of that, I did quickly how to do this diaper fold treat pouch. And then I went on my Facebook page and showed it in much slower a much slower version of it in more detail. And if I was to do like a Skillshare course, which I probably have done one, it would take me more of like an hour to show you this whole project. So I have different levels of tutorials that I do. So I really broke this down on Facebook and did it a lot slower and just this project. So we did the diaper fold as part of part 1 in our series using this cool Rustic Harvest paper that has these squash and pumpkins and gourds and all this cool stuff. So you can put a Ghirardelli in there. All right, so part 2 of the series, I showed you how to make a textured pumpkin. So this is what we made in part 2. I showed you how to use the Versamark ink on your dies before you run them through the die cutting machine. Here's different colors of the same card, same design. So that was the technique, is using clear, not powder, we didn't use powder, clear Versamark before you run the die through the machine. Then I showed you how to layer up these pumpkins. And we did all these cards, or I had a couple made, and then we did a couple more together. We have Cajun Craze, we have Crushed Curry, you have Mossy Meadow. You could see how you could just bring the colors out. And then I showed you in this video how to color the designer series paper. So you have Mossy Meadow, Pumpkin Pie, Cajun Craze, and Crushed Curry. So it's really fun to color your paper. We tried different color stumps. We tried this one. That my husband said it looks better with the crumb cake, so I tried the crumb cake. Then I tried my Mossy Meadow stump. And I think they both look good. And then for this technique, you are such a blessing. We took this punch, and we took strips of paper, and we stamped it, and we put the strips of paper through here and punched it, and that's how we got this shape. So in other words, don't think of this punches as you have to have this big giant shape. You can put pieces of paper through here, right? Put a smaller piece of paper through here. I'm just going to show you an example, right? And then punch it, and you'll get this kind of effect. So that's how we did that. All right, so that was part 2. And then you just saw part 3 was the embossed resist. And I'm going to show you some other things we'll be doing in the series. So we'll do something 3D next. So vote. And when I say vote, the first person who votes gets to pick it. Do you want the box or the sticky note holder next? So box or sticky. Just write the word sticky. And we're going to do these both, but which one do you want next? So we have a box. I haven't put anything in here yet, but it's a black bottom box with a different size lid. It's a little bit different than I usually teach you to make the same size lids. But now I'm going to just show you how to make the lid smaller, because I knew that you have a lot of black cardstock in your repertoire or in your suite. All right, let's see what the vote was. Box. All right, cool. Vote for box. Okay, 3 boxes. Okay, we're going to do this next. And then we'll do this later on in the series. So this is our sticky note holder, Post-it note holder. All right, so and we'll probably even do a couple size boxes. All right, so there's some other things to do in this series. And then I wanted to show you some other cards I made, which we'll do later. So let's see. We got the blessing cards. Now, this one was a technique that we've already covered. So I probably won't make this card for you because we've already covered the same technique. We've already shown you but it's a different take on part 1. See? So you could take what you learned in part 1 and color the paper. And this time I used Wink Stella on my pumpkin. But this part is just, the difference is I used black to emboss this. Wishing you the loveliest day. Okay, so that's why this card looks way different with the pumpkin pie. But I will make this card in the series, the sunflower card. So we'll probably do that next, after our box, but before our sticky note holder. Because I know you guys are going crazy over sunflowers. I'm just going to have to do this next. I mean, not next. We're going to do this next. Then we'll do some sunflowers. So for this one, I used the blender pen. So it's a technique of using this pen to color your sunflowers. And what you could do is use one pen and your ink pads and color the different sunflowers with just one pen, but different colors of ink. So that's the technique there, using the blender pen. Plus I did some other things where I blended this up, this banner, and then I did some heat embossing on all these with the copper heat embossing powder, Crushed Curry. So we'll do that in this series. And then this is a lot of these other ones are sort of similar takes on things that you learned already. But I'm going to still show them to you to kind of give you an idea. So we have this. This one is one of the times I'll probably do this because this is really fun. It's called Craft Ink. So you can heat emboss craft ink. So this ink is really like gooey, right? It's like white, gooey ink. And you always want to heat set that kind of ink anyway. But I did a technique with powder and the ink to really make that, look how 3D that is. So we'll probably do that technique in here. This one came out kind of cool, but it's hard to see. But it's clear embossing powder over black cardstock. So that's an interesting concept. And then this one is the Loveliest Day. But this time I did different kinds of, I only put designer series paper on the bottom and top of the card. And then nothing in the middle. And I like how that came out. So I think what I'll do for one of the videos in the series is I'll do these two cards together. Because this one, just to give you a heads up, is using one other type of paper, which I just love. I mean, I don't love the paper, but I love it on this pumpkin. And I'm going to show you that paper. So Rustic Harvest, for every single thing you saw right now, is Rustic Harvest Designer Series paper. Except for this pumpkin that we'll do the same day I do this kind of card, because I want to teach you about that craft white ink, that technique. So it's this paper here, but with the smaller squares. Well, you get the idea. It's the smaller square. It's not, this is pumpkin pie, and this is a different one. These are the size squares, but I have to find the piece. But here, we're going to make a pumpkin that uses both pumpkin pie cardstock and then this together, because it's really fun. And this paper, I think it's called Gingham Cottage or something. And I'm not hiding the fact that I didn't like this paper. When I opened it up for the unboxing, you saw my face, or you didn't see my face because you only saw you heard my voice. But now that I've been using it on certain things, I'm starting to like it, because look what it does. It does a texture with the little checkers or the gingham, but then you also have the texture from the dye. The dye is like making it all bumpy and textured. So it really came out like a cool pumpkin. So I'll be doing that as well. So we have lots to cover in this series, and we'll probably maybe even invent some, or, I'll come up with some more designs maybe before the end of the series. So that's what's going on in the month of September. So you could shop in my Stampin' Up store if you like any of these products. If you're not already part of my newsletter, I covered a list of what we're using, and I can send you a copy of the newsletter. You could sign up for the newsletter at paperchef.stampinup.net. It'll say it right on the bottom of the page. Just scroll down, and that's where you can also find the current host code when you shop with me. Well, that's all for now. Thank you all for your support. And let me just see if anyone else I want to give a shout out to, like Pat from Alabama. All right, Linda voted for stickies. Don't worry, Linda, we'll get sticky notes later, but you got outvoted because the box vote was first. And we go by first here because, that's just how you keep you guys on your toes. We'll do them all. We'll probably do almost all of these. Hi, Nicole. Hi, Gloria. Lynn. So thank you all for coming. This is the Paper Chef. Have a great day.